60 Minutes Rewind.
You may not know the man, but if you've ever seen a building designed by Frank Gehry, you'll never forget it. Gehry is to architecture what Einstein was to physics, what Picasso was to painting, what Jordan is to basketball. In his way, he has changed the world. Gehry started as a truck driver, but he was always fascinated with shapes. They come to him, he says, in dream images. His dreams are so revolutionary they have to use computers to figure out how to build them. Gehry is demolishing everything we expect a building to be, and along the way has changed the way we think about architecture forever. No one doubts his genius, no one except Frank Gehry himself. Along the Nervion River, Gehry's greatest achievement so far flows into the skyline of Bilbao, Spain. The Guggenheim Museum is so innovative, no art inside will ever be as important as the building. It's been called a miracle. When he finished it, Gehry stood there with his clients and was struck by a powerful thought.
I thought it was a disaster.
A disaster?
I did. I looked at it and I said, oh my God.
Why?
Because you get self-conscious about these things. You know, you push out like I did, and then you look at it and you say, what have I done to these people? No, it's true. This is how I felt. They knew it too. They were very disturbed because I wasn't able to talk in positive terms about it.
What did you say?
Well, no, I just said, you know, I wish I'd changed this. I wanted to, you know, I was a basket case. But I do this on every project.
If Gehry is self-doubting, rumpled, even shy, his projects are his alter ego. There's attitude in the angles, conviction in the curves. His work is, well, out of line.
It takes time to see the evolution, and then you realize, oh, that's what he was getting at.
Getting to Bilbao was an evolution of many years. You see the beginnings of it in the American Center in Paris, the Toledo Visual Arts Center in Ohio, and the Weizmann Museum in Minnesota. Architecture critics rave, but forget about the experts. Stand outside any Gehry building and look at the faces. The cameras come out on Venice Beach in California, Prague in the Czech Republic, and in Bilbao. They may not know Gehry, but they know a star when they see one.
The Bilbao Museum in Spain really changed the world.
Paul Goldberger, architecture critic for the New Yorker magazine, says Gehry's Bilbao masterpiece is making architecture a spectator sport.
That building has been attracting all kinds of people who aren't necessarily great architecture buffs, all kinds of people who haven't gone to Europe to see a building any newer than 500 years old in their lives, and yet they're all flocking to see this one, which really is a kind of cathedral of our age.
If this is a cathedral, Gehry's professional pilgrimage began with a mortal building, a little house in Santa Monica, the house he still lives in.
The guy from over there came over one day when he saw it finished, and he said he didn't like it. And I said, why don't you like it? And he said, well, it's just strange.
Well, imagine if it was next door to you. Gehry wrapped an existing middle-class home in a shell of corrugated steel, glass, and a chain-link fence up on the roof. The kind of stuff that Gehry saw in his neighbors' yards, but they all chose to ignore.
This house had 2 big campers. There was chain-link fences, so I was just trying to become part of my middle-class neighborhood. I was trying to figure out how to fit in.
But geniuses rarely do. What Gehry had created right there on Main Street was a piece of modern art. He argues that his house isn't the only thing that sticks out in the neighborhood when you see the world the way he does.
I'm saying, see that black roof and that tile roof?
Yeah.
They're in collision. They don't fit together. If you look at that composition of that house and that house, there's a collision of ideas. Even though they're very conventional houses, they have not respected each other in any way. And if you spend a little time here, you'll realize that's an intrusion on this poor bastard. So that's the language of the city, and it's all over the place.
Many voices talking at once.
Yes. So I took that language and made a house with it.
In 1978, the house made Gehry famous and caught the attention of the Dean of American Architecture, 95-year-old Philip Johnson. How important is Frank Gehry?
He's the best architect in the world, simple as that.
Best today, but where does Johnson rate Gehry against past 20th century giants like Frank Lloyd Wright, Walter Gropius, and Ludwig Mies van der Rohe?
He beat us all.
He beat you all.
Yep, he's a better architect.
A departure from where architecture had been.
Yes, that was the big thing. We were all looking for new architecture. We thought we'd invented modern architecture, but then this genius came along. Woo, different.
And broke the concrete.
Yeah, broke the concrete and the glass.
The demolition of architecture as we know it is happening in Gehry's Santa Monica studio outside LA. Here, 135 designers, engineers, model makers are working on as many as 35 Gehry designs at a time. Think of it as Gehry Incorporated, even though the work here is anything but business as usual.
I look around the room and I don't see a T-square in here anywhere.
I have one at home in the closet somewhere.
It's all done on computers now.
Yes.
In fact, you can't do it without the computers.
Right.
Tell me how it works.
I haven't a clue. This is Rick Smith.
Rick Smith is an aerospace engineer who brings Gehry's flights of fancy down to earth.
What Frank does is he sculpts, he makes his shapes, and then we take his shape and then we get it into the computer.
Frank dreams up structures that can't be built.
He does, and then we have to say, Frank, here's the bounds that you can really work in.
Gehry buildings begin with a Gehry sculpture. The architect becomes artist and crafts a shape, which Smith will trace with something called a digitizer.
And then we'll take this device and actually just scribe down following the curves.
In effect, he's downloading Gehry's imagination into the computer, and Gehry says it hurts.
It's very hard. I have a dream image, let's call it, of this shape in my head. And when I see it on the computer, it's dried out. So I have to hold the dream image while I'm looking at this dried out image. And it's excruciating.
Computer takes the life out of it.
Takes the life out of it. And I can only hold it for so long. It's like putting your finger in the flame and you have to pull out. It's exactly like that.
Then his engineers calculate how to support those impossible curves.
For example, here's one where we've nearly modeled out the structure for the Disney Concert Hall.
Take one of these out. Take that one out.
Isolate it.
Isolate it. It's cut like that, you see? And that's delivered to the site and numbered. It's like
Tinker Toys.
Tinker Toys.
Assembling a Erector set.
It's a process that lets Gehry make a building dance, as he did with the tower in Prague they call Fred and Ginger. See what they mean? Gehry says this human form is the inspiration behind his designs.
It's this feeling thing. When you're a baby, you're in your mother's arm, and the folds of the dress are very comforting. This is my theory now.
You think of your buildings as comforting,
Yes,
embracing?
yes. Yes, I do. And people say they are to me.
That sentiment, so essential to his work, comes from a childhood filled with family but very little money. He grew up in Canada during the Depression and spent most of his weekends in his grandfather's shop.
You grew up in the hardware store.
Yeah, kind of. Playing with the nails and the screws and cutting glass and cutting pipe and fixing toasters and clocks and things like that. I loved it. I loved working with him.
His family moved to L.A., where Gehry tried a night class in architecture, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. But before Gehry would change the way we look at buildings, he changed something about himself first.
Gehry is not your real name.
Right.
You were born
Goldberg.
Why did you change it?
Well, that's a very personal story. I mean, it's got to do with a former wife and anti-Semitism at the time.
Fear of anti-Semitism at the time.
Yeah,
You saw that in Canada.
I did. But, you know, we were having our first child, and she was upset and worried about it. And would I want to bring a kid into the world to go through what I did?
Which was what?
I used to get beaten up for killing Christ.
And now the world's most famous architect is not Frank Goldberg.
It is Frank Gehry.
It is Frank Gehry.
Phony baloney.
Hardly. At the age of 72, he's true to his roots. In a sense, Gary's still playing in the hardware store, trying to fix things. The boy who suffered for being a Jew is designing a museum of tolerance in Jerusalem and a refuge for cancer patients, designed for a friend, Maggie Keswick Jinks, who died of breast cancer.
The idea started from a lighthouse, the lighthouse being a symbol of hope. And the corrugated roof is so that the clouds and the skies reflect, and as the clouds move across, there's kind of a soft, see how the shadow goes across? I saw a Vermeer painting that had a woman with a white shawl that had a corrugated shawl. And it reminded me of Maggie, and that's when I started to play with this corrugation.
In terms of painters, critics often compare Gehry to Picasso, and critic Paul Goldberger says, like Picasso, not everyone gets Gehry's work.
A lot of people still do feel that they look weird, and people are uncomfortable with weird things. There are some people who question how well some of the buildings work. They are definitely special masterworks, and sometimes they're criticized for not being more ordinary.
The story will continue after this.
For your money, greatest building ever designed?
San Carlino. It's a little church in Rome by Borromini, tiny little church. It's got all the moves in it that I've made. I've done nothing new since then.
But it was done hundreds of years ago, without the computer.
Without the computer. And the architect committed suicide.
What does that tell you?
It scared me.
You'll notice in the course of our interview, Gehry managed to tell us that he's done nothing new and feared that his masterwork was a disaster. But finally, he did peer over his own wall of insecurity and admitted that he might finally see what has been in plain sight for so many others.
Bilbao, when I went there the last time, I saw it for the first time as something else. I was detached enough. And as I walk around there, I see that as you turn the corner, the building does a nice thing with this, and the building does a nice thing with the bridge, and it doesn't. And I think to myself, gee, did I figure that all out?